आज ही डाउटनेट ऐप डाउनलोड करें। डाउटनेट पर होगा अब आपके सभी मैथ्स, केमिस्ट्री, फिजिक्स और बायोलॉजी डाउट्स का सफाया। बस अपने क्वेश्चन की फोटो खींचो, उसे क्रॉप करो और तुरंत वीडियो सोल्यूशन पाओ। डाउनलोड नाउ।
Hello everyone. So here we have a question. Consider two curves. C1 is y equals to 1 plus cos x and C2 is y equals to 1 plus cos x minus alpha. For alpha belongs to 0 to pi by 2 open interval where x belongs to close interval 0 to pi. Also, the area of the figure bounded by the curve C1 and C2 and x equals to 0 is same as the area of the figure bounded by C2 and y equals to 1 and x equals to pi. Then we have to find the value of alpha. We have four options. We have to check which option is correct. So first of all, let me visualize you that what is the condition, what is the graph, what are the curves. So this is axis. I'm drawing a rough figure here. So I'm drawing for this cos x plus 1. So as you already know, cos x is something like that figure where this is 1. Okay, but here we have 1 plus cos x. So it will shifted by 1. So let's say this is 1 and this is 2. So this graph, this C1 graph will look like this. Okay, this starts from 2 and it's end with the -2. Okay, so this is what this graph look like. Now come to this y equals to 1 plus cos x minus alpha. So basically x minus alpha means when we have x equals to 0, then on putting 0 here, it will be cos 0. Cos 0 is 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So at x equals to 0, my C1 is 2. My C1 is 2. But at x equals to 0, my C2 is not 2. So when it will become 2? So when x equals to alpha, then my C2 will become 2. See here, I'm putting alpha here. So at x equals to alpha, alpha minus alpha is 0. Cos 0 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So it will shifted by alpha. So I'm assuming that my alpha is something over here, okay, which is in between 0 to pi by 2. Okay, I'm assuming my alpha here. So my graph will look like something that, and it will look like that. Okay, you can say, yeah, and it will goes like that. Okay, so it is high, or we can say the highest point of this graph will on a alpha. Okay, now I'm going to make this graph fair. So here we have the fair graph. So you can see clearly here all the curves. So this is my curve C1. As I told you, it is 2. Okay, so this is my C1. And this curve is my C2 curve. As I told you, it will look like this. And this is the highest point. So it is something over here, alpha. Okay. Now, see here, this line, as the question said, y equals to 1. So this line is y equals to 1. Okay, this vertical line is x equals to pi. As the question said, x equals to pi line here. Okay, and this is obviously x equals to 0. As we already know, this y-axis is x equals to 0. Now, what question said? Question said that the area bounded by C1 and C2 and x equals to 0 means this area. This is the area bounded by C1, C2 and x equals to 0. Okay, this area, let's say I'm saying this area as A1. This area is equals to same as that of the figure C2, y equals to 1 and x equals to pi. C2 means this curve. Okay, x equals to pi means this and y equals to 1 is this. So it means this area. Let's say this area is A2. Okay, and the question said that my A2 is equals to A1. Okay, now here this area is equals to this area. Now I'm going to write the equations, or we can say the integration for the areas. So for A2, I'm writing first for A1. Okay, so this is my A1. So how can we find A1? A1 is C1 minus C2 from 0 to here. This point is alpha by 2. How can we find this alpha by 2? Let me find this for you. So basically this is the intersection point of this and this. So I'm going to find this intersection point. So basically it will be 1 plus cos alpha, or we can say x equals to 1 plus cos x minus alpha. Okay, here you can see 1 will cancel out 1. I will left with cos x equals to cos x minus alpha. On comparing both sides the angles, I will get x equals to x minus alpha. From here you can say that x equals to alpha by 2. That is how I found this intersection point, okay, which is alpha by 2. So we have to find the integration c1 minus c2 from 0 to, this is 0 to alpha by 2 for the vertical strip, that is dx. Okay, so my a1, I'm writing a1 equals to a2. So in place of a1 it will be integration 0 to alpha by 2 c1 minus c2, okay, with the vertical strip dx equals to integration of a2. Now a2 is nothing but pi by 2 plus alpha. How can we find this pi by 2 plus alpha? Basically the intersection point of this line and this curve. Okay, so I'm finding this also for you. So I'm writing here intersection point for y equals to 1 and c2. So it will be y equals to 1 plus cos x minus alpha. Okay, I'm putting this 1 here, so it will be 1 equals to 1 plus cos x minus alpha. Okay, now from here you can see that x 1 will cancel out 1 and I will left with cos x minus alpha equals to 0, and it will be x minus alpha equals to pi by 2. When this will pi by 2, then only this complete cos angle equals to 0. Okay, and from here you can see that x equals to pi by 2 plus alpha. So that is how we find this intersection point of y equals to 1 and c2. Okay, now this is alpha pi by 2 plus alpha. So we have to find the area under the y equals to 1 minus c2 from pi by 2 plus alpha to pi. This line is pi, so that's why this point is pi. Okay, so I'm writing here it will be pi by 2 plus alpha to pi, and y minus, I can say y equals to 1, so 1 minus c2 with the vertical strip dx. Okay, now I'm going to put all the values of c1 and c2 here, so it will look like integration 0 to alpha by 2. My c1 is 1 plus cos alpha, sorry, cos x as given in the question, minus c2 is 1 plus cos x minus alpha as per given in the question. Okay, and complete dx. Okay, and this will be equals to integration pi by 2 plus alpha to pi, and 1 minus c2 is 1 plus cos x minus alpha. Okay, so this is my second area. Okay, dx I'm writing here. Now I'm going to solve for this. So basically you can see here this one will cancel out this one. I will left with alpha by 2 integration 0. It will be cos x minus alpha. Okay, dx, and it is equals to, I'm writing here, it is equals to this integral, which is pi by 2 plus alpha to pi. 1 will cancel out this one and it will be minus of, or we can take this minus out, cos x minus alpha dx. Okay, now finally I'm going to integrate this thing. So as you already know, the integration of cos x is nothing but sin x. So I'm writing here sin x minus sin x minus alpha, limit 0 to alpha by 2. Okay, and here it is equals to minus of the integration of this cos x minus alpha is sin x minus alpha simply, and limit pi by 2 plus alpha to pi. I'm going to apply the limits. So basically it will be sin alpha by 2 minus sin alpha by 2 minus alpha, upper limit minus lower limit. I'm going to apply the lower limit, which is 0. So sin 0 is 0, minus, on putting 0 here, it will be sin 0 minus alpha is minus alpha. Okay, equals to, I'm going to put the limit over here, right hand side. So it will be, on putting pi, it will be sin pi minus alpha. Okay, minus lower limit. So it will be sin pi by 2 plus alpha minus alpha will be pi by 2 only. Okay, Now I'm simplifying this thing, so it will be sine alpha by 2 and minus of sine minus sine alpha by 2. So sine of, let me write this thing here, sine minus theta is nothing but minus sine theta. That's why it will be minus of sine alpha by 2, and it will be plus now. So it will be sine alpha by 2 twice and minus, similarly for this, so it will be minus of sine alpha only. Okay, sine of minus theta is minus sine theta, it will be plus, and plus minus minus. Okay, equals to minus of sine pi minus theta. So basically pi minus theta means the second quadrant, and second quadrant, in the second quadrant sine is positive and it will not change. Okay, that's why it will be sine alpha remains. I'm multiplying this minus inside, and it will be plus sine pi is 1. Okay, now this sine minus sine alpha cancel out. We will left with 2 sine alpha by 2 equals to 1. From here I can say that sine alpha by 2 equals to 1 by 2. Okay, from here I can say that my alpha by 2, it is equals to pi by sine pi by 6 is 1 by 2. So I'm writing here sine pi by 6. Okay, on multiplying 2 over here, so it will be sine pi by 3 only. Okay, this 2 will cancel out this 6 by 3 times. So my alpha is pi by 3. So this should be the answer. So let's check the option. So yeah, our option 2 is correct. Thank you.
क्लास 6 से 12 से लेके नीट IIT JEE मेंस और एडवांस के लेवल तक 10 मिलियन से ज़्यादा स्टूडेंट्स का भरोसा। आज ही डाउनलोड करें डाउटनेट ऐप या व्हाट्सएप कीजिए अपने डाउट्स 8400 400 400 पर।